After the siege and death of 2 hostages in central Sydney earlier this week, you'd think that Australia has had its full measure of terrible grief to deal with. Instead tonight, a nation's left to mourn the shocking deaths of 8 children, most of them siblings in Cairns in far north Queensland, and wonder what on earth prompted this act of violence. The 34-year-old woman is recovering in hospital with stab wounds. Police say it's believed she's the mother of 7 of the children. They range in age from about 18 months to 15 years, and it's understood some of them were stabbed. The Prime Minister says it is an unspeakable crime and that these are trying days for our nation. Warren Entsch is the member for Leichhardt. He's the local federal member. He joined me earlier from Cairns. Warren Entsch, thank you for talking to 7:30.
It's a pleasure, absolute pleasure to be here.
Warren Entsch, this is really hard to comprehend. 8 children dead. Police say it's believed that 7 of them are siblings. It's really hard not to feel empty and completely helpless.
Oh, devastated, and I think, I described it earlier on as being absolutely gutted. I got the message not long after lunchtime that the tragedy had occurred, and when you start the full extent of what has happened here, at any time is it a tragedy, but in less than a week before Christmas, all these beautiful kids, 18 months to 15 years old, just totally cut down. And the whole community here is just absolutely numb with shock, and certainly looking to find some answers, but at the same time moving very, very quickly to embrace those that are going to be affected by this tragedy and offer them the support that they're desperately going to need.
You've spoken to police today. Have they been able to give you any idea as to what's going on here?
No, not at all at the moment. It's still very much a crime scene. They're still very much trying to identify what has happened. The last time I spoke to them, the children were still in the house. And so there's lots of questions that need to be answered, and in the meantime we're sort of waiting with anticipation, but in the meantime, as I say, we've got to start reaching out to those that are going to be most profoundly affected. There's already talk of a candlelit vigil this evening, flowers already being delivered around to the site, but there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and we've got to find out why on earth this has happened. It's clearly, I've heard speculation that there's suggestions of all sorts of sinister motives, but I suspect and it appears that this is just a tragic personal event, and we need to look at it in that context and find out how on earth it occurred, and how we can learn from this and hopefully avoid this type of tragedy in the future.
Now, a 34-year-old woman is in hospital. Police say it's believed she is the mother of 7 of these children. Do we know much about her situation?
Well, my understanding is, they're from a very large Torres Strait Islander community that we have here in Cairns. We don't know a lot about it at all. I understand, I believe I know the family that is involved in this, but I haven't had the details yet. This is going to be devastating we have a large Torres Strait Islander community here, but also for the broader community.
Mr Entsch, tell me about that community where this family was living. Is it a disadvantaged area? Is it a close-knit community?
It's a very close-knit community. There have been problems over a considerable time, but there's been a lot of work done in the area, and I have to say to you that in that time there has been very significant changes. It was only a week or so ago there was a huge celebration of the success. The fantastic work that the social workers, the police and the local community have done in working in that community has been amazing. And I guess this is what makes this tragedy even more profound.
The Prime Minister has said that there'll be tears and prayers for these children right around Australia tonight. As you mentioned, there's going to be a candlelight vigil there tonight. Happening so close to Christmas, how do you think the community is going to pull through?
Well, look, we have a fabulous community up here, an absolutely amazing community, and in times of sadness and in tragedy, what's bring communities together. We've seen it happen in Sydney earlier this week. Same sort of strength of this community. It never fails to amaze me. There is nothing worse than the death of children, made even more profound by the death of those children so close to a time when it's supposed to be celebration, very special for kids. I look at my own 8-year-old daughter and how excited she's been every day counting down for Christmas, and I think of those children counting down the days, the excitement even that they must experience, and for that to cut off now so close to that special day is just so profoundly sad. And I think the whole heart, the heart of the whole community is bleeding for these people, and we will get behind them. I mean, one of the great traditions of the Torres Strait Island community, one of the cultural traditions, is when there is a tragedy, everybody comes to the family. They sit down with that family. They bring food, they bring support, and they stay with that family. They don't stay there for a few hours. They stay there for days. They stay there for as long as is necessary to give that family support. And I've got no doubt at all that will be starting already. And the difference now that there will be lots and lots of people will be coming in to support those grieving relatives, those close relatives of this tragedy. But there will be lots of others out there that may not be able to sit with them physically, but in spirit they will be there, and they'll show their own signs of support, their own signs of grief as we go through this. And at the end of the day, as I say, as a community, we'll come out very much stronger for it.
Warren Entsch, thank you very much for talking to 7:30 tonight.
Thank you, Sabra, and thank you very much indeed for having me on.